Thank you, Alex. Thank you. I would love to. I want to say that it's for me. It's a huge pleasure to be here today and talk a little bit about the island, about the wines that we produce here for centuries. And I hope that in the end we will try great wines. And if you have any question that I am not able to answer now, you can always send me an email and I will try to help you, of course. Today we will talk a little bit about historical. I will talk a little bit about the island, historical facts. You know, Madeira wine has this long and beautiful history. And it was really an amazing, it is an amazing wine. And then we will talk about our terroir. Why is the wine so different? Because we have different conditions in terms of climate, our landscape, our soils, the way we produce the wine is different. We will also talk about traditional grape varieties, the ones that are well known for the production of Madeira wine. The production methods, that they are unique in the world. I'm talking about the baking process, estufagem. I'm talking about canteiro process. Then we will see a little bit about legislation and how is Madeira wine classified. This is for you to understand the labeling of the Madeira wine. And then I will talk also a little bit about the Madeira wine sector, because it's a small sector. It has not so many companies. So we will talk and see. So the first thing I want you to tell you, it's about the island. So the island, Madeira Island, it's an archipelago. It's formed by 7 islands: Madeira, Porto Santo, Desertas and Selvagens. Only in Madeira and in Porto Santo we have people living there. Madeira, it has 741 square meters of area. It's very, very small. And we are about 253,000 inhabitants. So we are located in the Atlantic Ocean, and we are closer of the African coast than we are from the mainland, as you can see. So we suffer influence of the African coast. The highest point in Madeira, it's called Pico Ruivo, and it has 1,862 meters high. And just for you to see that the island has a north and the south part, the coast, and almost all the population lives on the south part of the island. You will see why. So, what is Madeira wine? Madeira wine, it's of course a fortified wine. It can only be produced in Madeira demarcated region, and this region is formed by 2 islands, Madeira and Porto Santo. So it's a protected denomination of origin, and the 2 names that are protected are Madeira or Madeira wine. It's a wine that can have between 17 to 22% of alcohol. And of course, it's a certified product. Madeira Wine Institute is the governmental organization that regulates, controls, and promotes the wine that we produce here, this fortified wine. So all the bottles, before they go to the market, they have to undergo a physicochemical test. We have a lab that does that kind of work, and also a tasting panel. In the tasting panel, we have our winemakers and also people that work in the institute, and that has the knowledge, the profound knowledge of the product, that will say that it has the right characteristics to be recognized as a Madeira wine. Only after he is approved in the physicochemical analysis and in the sensorial analysis, and only after the we see if the labeling is according to the legislation. Only after that the wine can go to the market. So here I have a small video for you. It's about 4 minutes. I want you to see the island. I want you to see the place and the conditions where the wine is produced, because it's a unique place. And I think I want you in the end to see if you want to come and visit us and try the wines here, because it's completely different for you to understand the wine, why the wine is like this. Oh, sorry, too soon. Okay.
Madeira wine has been part of the history of the island that gives it its name since 1450, and is a symbol of distinction and nobility all over the world. Appreciated by great personalities and historic figures like Napoleon Bonaparte and Winston Churchill, it has also inspired characters and playwrights like Shakespeare. It was used to toast the celebration of independence in the United States of America in 1776, and was a favorite of George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, and Thomas Jefferson, the founding fathers of the United States. The island produces Madeira wine on its steep man-made slopes, on small terraces. The soil that creates Madeira is acidic, and the climate subtropical, and is typically grown on trellises. Humanized landscapes of singular beauty thus emerge, making an incomparable wine where acidity is marked and guarantees an almost eternal freshness. Madeira wine is unique in the world, typical for its aromas of aging that combine the sun and the high island temperatures with the slow oxidation process in wooden casks almost as old as the history of the wine that lies in them. There is a secular flavor in this nectar that is reborn in every bottle of Madeira, with the cheerfulness and pride of a people who always want to offer the best. Time has built tradition. The time required for the wine to mature using the Cantairo process, the time required to make the sea journey to India and back, creating the Vinho Dourado round-trip wine that gives rise to the baking process of Stufazime. The time during which unforgettable moments are celebrated. Of intense aromas, Madeira wine exhales the culture that emanates from the land, at the hands of those who know it and respect it, and who will leave their mark on a wine that will be enjoyed in other places, by other people, probably in other times. It was always like this, since it embarked on the great maritime sea routes that took it all over the world, and will continue to be so. Madeira is a pleasure in the form of entrancing aromas, spices, curry, roasted almonds, crystallized fruits, ethereal aromas that blend in an elegy to the senses. Madeira offers perfect, refined encounters, combining to perfection with the most varied flavors, with the most unforgettable moments. Madeira is passion, the revelation of a warm and exotic character, the place of intense, unique sensations. Madeira is a wine with the name of an island with the name of a wine.
There you go. It's a wine with the name of an island, a very small island. So let's go and talk a little bit about historical facts. So you heard in the video that Madeira wine it's produced in the island since the 15th century. It was one of the first crops we introduced here. The main crop in the 15th and the middle 16th century was sugarcane to produce very high quality sugar. But in the middle of the 16th century, because of the sugarcane production decreases because of Brazil starts producing huge quantities of sugar, so they start replacing the sugarcane fields by vineyards. And since then, from the 17th to the 19th century, Madeira wine lived his golden age. And it was the island strategic position, the alliances between the Portuguese crown and other countries, the influence of the English merchants who settled in the island. These were all important things that made Madeira wine to go out and to reach different parts of the world. So even nowadays, more than 80% of all the Madeira wine that we produce is to export. We export for almost 40 countries around the world. So as you can see, and from the 17th to the 19th century, Madeira wine was going out to East Indies, to Brazil, North America, West Indies. So these were very important markets for Madeira wine. And because of this, in the middle of the 18th century, they start doing fortification. They start fortifying the wine, because Madeira wine was not always a fortified wine as we know it today. We start the fortification in Madeira wine started being done in general in the middle of the 18th century, and also in the end of the 18th century we start doing the baking process, which is unique. I don't know any other region that makes the stufagem process as we do in Madeira wine. So two important things that happen in the 18th century. In the 19th century, we had these diseases, and we lost almost all our vineyards. So it was a very period very bad for Madeira wine, and it was only in the 20th century that we start trying to improve the wine sector with new legislation. New legislation appeared. We only start talking in Madeira wine region in 1907. Then in 1979, Madeira wine established, and this was really important. And since then, Madeira wine has improved a lot. The Madeira wine sector is now doing a great job with the quality of the wines, especially the youngest of the Madeira wines, more not so old. The youngest of all Madeira wines, they have this very high quality nowadays. So let's talk a little bit about terroir. So as you can see, the landscape, it has this influence of the Atlantic Ocean. You will see that you will find a lot of Madeira wines with a lot of salinity. So it's the influence of this Atlantic Ocean. it's very common on the north side of the island, because on the north side of the island the vineyards are near the sea, so it's something that you will find in the wines. And as you can see, almost half of the island are mountains, forests, valleys. So the area that we have to practice agriculture is not as many as we would like to. So how are our vineyards? They are in poios or sucalcos. These are small terraces, and these small terraces are supported by the gray basaltic walls that we have been building since the 15th century. As you can see in the picture, it's a very difficult, it's a hard work. It's very difficult to keep the land and to produce our vineyards. In terms of climate, so we will have this high central mountain range in the middle of the island that makes the north coast and the south coast completely different in terms of conditions for the production of grapes. So on the north coast, we have more rain, we have less hours of sun exposure, we have high levels of humidity. So the vineyards are near the sea. On the south coast, we will have, because of this high central mountain range, the south it's much more protected. So we will have better conditions for the production of grapes. Also, we have a lot of microclimates that varies with altitude. So when you are going up 100 meters, the temperature is going down 1 degree. So as you can see, you can have big differences even if the distance is small. So the soils, this is a volcanic, the island has a volcanic origin, so they are mainly basaltic, of course, depending on the altitude. They usually are rich in medium to rich in organic matter and minerals, and acid to very acid. So this will give a lot of freshness to the grapes and to the wine, and which is a unique characteristic for our fortified wine, because our fortified wine have always some sweetness, but also have a lot of balance because of this thing that we have, freshness. If you try our fruits and all our things, all the things that we produce here, you will see that they always have very, very high levels of acidity. And this is because of our climate, our soils. So in terms of viticulture, the conduction systems of the vineyards, it's the most traditional is the latada or trellises. Okay, why? Because it was necessary to protect the vineyards from the humidity levels, the fungic diseases. So, and also because of the land, because it has some, it's not flat. So this, the trellises, they go very well with our orography. In the late 70s, they start producing some vineyards in the Spaldier system too. So it's not very common, but we already have some vineyards in Spaldier system, and but this is only possible when the terrain is flat. So we have the area of vineyards Vitis vinifera, which are the ones that we can use to produce Madeira wine. It's about 442 hectares, and we have, normally our companies, they don't have enough vineyards. They are not, so they need to go and buy to the wine growers. And we have a lot of small wine growers. We have more than 2,000 wine growers. These are very, very small wine growers. In average, the production average area is about 3,000 square meters a plot has an average 900 square meters. So as you can see, small productions and a lot of wine growers in the island. In terms of our traditional grape varieties, I'm sure that you've heard about our traditional grape varieties. We have Cercial, Verdalho, Boal, Malvasia. These are all white varieties. We also have Terrantez, which is a very special and iconic variety for Madeira wine. Cercial, we only produce 5% of Cercial. 3% is from Boal, Verdalho 13%, and the area, this is not production, this is area of vineyards, okay? 13% of the vineyards are from Verdalho, and it increased in the last years. Why? Because Verdalho, it's also used to do still wines. So, and then we have Malvasia, and the red variety that we produce a lot, and 54% of our vineyards are with Tinta Negra. 85%, almost 85% of the total production is from Tinta Negra, so the red variety that we have for Madeira wine. As you can see here, we have 239 hectares with Tinta Negra, Cercial 23 hectares, Verdalho 57, Boal 13, Terrantez we only have 2.9 hectares, so very, very rare. It's very difficult to produce Terrantez because it has this bunch very tight, and because of the humidity levels in the beginning of the summertime, they rotten easily. Is this okay? Rotten? Sorry, easily. So the producers, they don't like produce Terrantez because it's very sensitive to humidity. Okay, so how do we produce our Madeira wine? So the wine growers, they sell the grapes to the companies. The companies, they press the grapes, steam the grapes. Normally they are all steamed. Then they start fermentation. It's with autochthonous yeasts. They start the fermentation, and then they stop the fermentation. They fortified with vinyl alcohol at 96%. Okay, the 60s of the last century, we used spirits. We start using French spirits, then we used spirits made with sugarcane in the island. We also used brandy, but nowadays we can only use vinyl alcohol at 96%. This alcohol must be a neutral one, and it's also submitted to a tasting panel to see if it doesn't have any kind of flavors or aromas that can alter the wine. So after we do fortification, we will have a young wine, and if the company is producing a 3 years old or 5 years old Madeira wine, this young wine can undergo the baking process or estufagem. So it goes to these big stainless vats, and they have this system of heating the wine. They heat the wine gradually. They must stay for a minimum of 3 months and to a maximum temperature of 50 degrees. After that, they must stay 3 months resting at room temperature, and only after that they can bottle the wine, or some producers, they put the wine in barrels to increase the complexity and the typicity of the wine. So this is used for all the young wines. They almost all are made using estufagem and using Tinta Negra. If you have a white variety like Cercial, Verdalho, Boal, Malvasia, Terrantez, and now Bastardo also, the producers, they choose to do canteiro system, and canteiro system is when you have your young wine and you put the wine in these small barrels. They can be of French or American oak. The legislation doesn't say that it must be one or another, so it goes, but it goes to the warehouses on the top floor of the warehouses where we have temperature, and they will stay there in a slow oxidative process. Of course, this it must stay. For you to say that Madeira wine was made using canteiro system, it cannot undergo baking process, estufagem process. It must go directly to the barrels, and it must stay a minimum of 2 years. After that, it can go to the bottle, or it can keep aging in the barrels. So in terms of classification, we have the youngest of all Madeira wines. So normally in these bottles you will not find the age or the name of the grape variety in the label. So you will only have the sweetness level, if it is a dry, medium sweet, or sweet. Normally, these wines are made using baking process, estufagem, and they are normally from Tinta Negra. Do you have any question? No? Okay. Then we have another group of wines, which are blends, and these blends, they must always have the indication of age. So, and they can or not have the name of the grape variety. So the possible indication of age is 5, 10, 15, and 5 years old. It's the same thing as a reserve. 10 years old, it's the same thing as a old reserve, and 15 years old, it's the same thing as extra reserve. So then you have 20, 30, 40, 50, and more than 50. 50 and more than 50 were new categories that came with the legislation that was made in 2015. And with this new legislation for Madeira wine, we start having two kinds of varieties: the recommended varieties and the authorized varieties. So the recommended varieties, they are the only ones that can appear in the label of a bottle of Madeira wine. So Cercial, Verdelho, Boal, Malvasia, Terrantez, Bastardo, and Tinta Negra can appear in the label of Madeira wine because these are recommended varieties. So for these wines, you can also have the name of the variety. For you to have the name of the variety in the label, you need two things. First, you need that it must be a recommended variety, and you must have at least 85% of that variety of that grape in the blend. Okay, so you can have a Cercial 10 years old. We will try one today. Cercial 10 years old, and if it has the name Cercial, you can be sure that at least 85% of that blend is made with Cercial variety. And then you have those categories with the year of harvest, and in here you can have a colheita or harvest, and this is a wine that must stay a minimum of 5 years in casks. Okay, minimum of 5 years in casks. The label must always have the name colheita or harvest, and for you to have the name of the variety, it must be a recommended variety and you must have at least 85% of that variety in the wine. Then we have frasqueiras, frasqueira garrafeira, or we cannot use this name anymore, which is vintage, because port wine has the name vintage protected. So we can only use frasqueira or garrafeira. But in the past, Madeira wine also used vintage designation. So what this frasqueira or garrafeira, it's a wine that it's from a single year. It's 100% of a recommended variety. So you will always have the name of the grape in the label. You will always have the name, you will always have the year of the harvest, and it must stay for a minimum of 20 years in canteiro system. Okay, so these are the most complex and the most pure of all Madeira wines, because 100% of a recommended variety from a single year, and also 20 years minimum in canteiro system. These wines cannot make the baking process, only canteiro system. So these two categories, they must have the year of bottling. Okay, that's an obligation. They must always have the year of bottling. In terms of levels of sweetness for Madeira wine, you can have 5 different levels: extra dry, dry, medium sweet, and sweet. If you have an extra dry, you will always have less than 49 grams per liter. Dry, less than 59. Medium dry, between 54 and 78. Medium sweet, between 78 and 100. And the sweetest ones have always more than 100 grams per liter of residual sugar. So Cercial legislation says that Cercial must always be extra dry or dry, always. And these wines, normally they are very dry, pale, and extremely fresh, because in here we have high, more acidity, less sweetness. So Verdalho always makes the medium dry style of Madeira wine. These are wines that are normally golden, have a golden color. They are extremely elegant with very tropical and exotic color character. Then we have Boal. Boal, it's also called Malvasia Fina, but for the fortified Madeira wine, it must be named Boal. It always makes the medium sweet style, and these are amber color wines, medium-bodied, rich in flavor. They normally have vanilla and caramel and sweet aromas and flavors. Terrantez, which is also called Folgazão, we think that it came from the mainland. It can be made in medium dry or medium sweet style. It's always, these wines, when they age very, very well. They are extremely elegant in aroma and on the mouth. They have this typical bitterness in the end, which makes them very, very interesting, very different from all the other wines. So really great wines. Then we have Malvasia, and Malvasia, it's always made in the sweet style, and these wines are very unctuous structure. These are all of all the Madeira wines. These are the darker wines. They have a bouquet that reveals honey and spices and a lot of dry fruits. Great wines, good density. And then we have Tinta Negra, which can be made, it's very versatile. You will have Tinta Negra from the north side of the island, from the south side of the island. On the south, you can have Tinta Negras from the 200 meters high to 700 meters high. So at different altitudes, different exposures, different maturations. So very versatile. And that's why 85% of our grapes are from this variety. The wine growers, they enjoy it very much. It's a very easy to grow. So you can do it in all styles depending on the time you fortify the wine. If you fortify 1 or 2 days after the beginning of the fermentation, you will have a sweet wine, a sweet Tinta Negra. If you fortify 6, 7 days after, you will have a dry Tinta Negra. So in terms of colors, of course.
Rubina?
Yes.
I apologize for interrupting, but we've got a question, which is whether the legislation has been changed or updated since 2015.
Yes. Sorry, I didn't understood, sorry.
You were talking about the new legislation in 2015.
Yeah.
Has there been anything more recently than 2015?
No. What's the most recent legislation is from 2015.
Okay. Thank you.
And it was really important. It's a good question, Alex, because it was really important to change the legislation. Sorry, my English. I need a glass of wine. So it was really important. Why? Because we had the so-called traditional and those varieties, Cercial, Verdelho, the noble varieties. In old days we called noble varieties, and Tinta Negra was not considered a noble variety. But we produce a lot of Tinta Negra, and our companies, they are doing a great job with in terms of viticulture. They are learning to have better quality grapes, and they are doing a great job with the Tinta Negra. So we have beautiful wines, colheitas or harvest wines made with Tinta Negra, and also we have great frasqueiras and garrafeiras, the vintage wines made with Tinta Negra. And despite Tinta Negra, it's the volume variety, okay, because it's with Tinta Negra that we produce the youngest Madeira wines. It's also good, and it has a huge potential to do high quality Madeira wines. So it was really very important, because before 2015, Tinta Negra could not appear in the label of our Madeira wine bottles. Okay, so it was important to consider Tinta Negra as a recommended variety, and now you will find in the market a lot of bottles with the name Tinta Negra in the label. Okay, so the colors. Madeira wine, it's an oxidized wine. He's submitted to temperature naturally by the Canteiro system, or artificially by the baking process, by the estufagem process. So the color, it will evolve rapidly. So you can have citric, pale or more pale wines, which are typical for the youngest and driest Madeira wines. You can have them golden, light brown, dark brown, which are typical for the oldest, very oxidized and sweetest Madeira wines. Well, in terms of the Madeira wine sector, the island is small, and the Madeira wine sector also. We only have 8 companies. So in the past, there were a lot of companies, but today we only have 8 companies, but these are very good companies. They have their own style of Madeira wine. Some companies, they have a more traditional style of Madeira wine. Other companies, the more young companies, they produce a more modern style of Madeira wine. I think this is amazing. If you come here and if you stay here for a week, and if you go and visit our companies and try our our wines, you will see that they are all very, very different. And I think that this, even if we only have 8 companies, they are very rich in terms of styles. So it's very interesting. So as you can see, many of these companies, they are already from the 19th century. The oldest one is the Madeira Wine Company that has, it belongs to Blandy family, okay? But they have other brands. It was born in 1811. Then we have Henriques from 1850, Pereira de Oliveira, which is a family company. It goes now in the 5th generation from 1852. Then we have Justinus. Justinus, it's from 1870, but it's the biggest Madeira wine company that we have nowadays. Then Borges, which is a family company also, and they are known as having these wonderful wines made with Malvasia, very old Malvasias. After the Second World War, is this okay? Sorry. A company was born in 1946, Barbeito, and Barbeito is the company that has the most modern style of Madeira wine. We will try 2 wines from Barbeito today. In the 90s, in 1993, a new company appeared, J. Faria Filhos. They are a company that from the 50s, but they only entered the Madeira wine sector in the 90s. And they have wines mainly made with Tinta Negra and in a blend style. Then we have the youngest of all Madeira wine companies, that it's from a cooperative, and the brand, it's Madeira Vintners. They were born in 2013, and they have this different style of Madeira wine because it's this project, it's made by a group of women. They are all women in the enology, in the marketing, and they are all women, and they are trying to do a different profile of Madeira wine. Why? Because they do wines less alcoholic. They use always the minimum. They are made to have 17% of alcohol with a more feminine profile, lighter. So it's an interesting. It's interesting to see that the Madeira wine sector still has space to have different things and different styles of wine. So just for you to see, we produced about 3.4 million kilos of grapes each year. In 2018, we sold 3.4 million liters of wine. We export for 38 countries. More than 80% of all the wine that we produce is to export. And in 2019, the Madeira Wine Institute certified 5.3 million bottles of Madeira wine. So this is a very small sector, but it's a consistent sector. It's a region with a lot of history, with a lot of knowledge. Our companies, they have the knowledge that they brought with old generations, so they know how to do it. So today we will have 4 companies. We will try wines from Madeira Wine Company, from Barbeito, from Henriques, and from Pereira de Oliveira. So Madeira Wine Company is, as you probably know, it has more than 200 years, and it goes now in the 7th generation of the family. And they have, they start doing a lot of wines in colheitas. They are known as because they have these great colheitas. This is the winemaker, it's Francisco Albuquerque, and it's someone that loves the scientific knowledge. So he has made a lot for Madeira wine sector because he studies a lot. He did a study with the local university about the baking process. And nowadays we know that we cannot go up to 47, 48 degrees in terms of temperature. So he helped a lot. He, in terms of vinification, the wines of the Francisco Albuquerque, they have the volatile very low, so different, very well done technically and based in scientific knowledge. Then we have Henriques and Henriques. It's from this company, it's from 1850, and it also exports all over the world. And it has a lot of, this is the winemaker, the CEO and winemaker, Humberto Jardim, and he makes a different style of wine. These are wines that have a lot of, in a more traditional style, and try to preserve the expression of the grape variety. Normally in the high categories of Madeira wine, he enjoys putting higher alcohol content. You will see that these wine, the wines from Henriques normally they have 20% of alcohol, and they are very well balanced. They have this perfect integration of alcohol, very well balanced in terms of alcohol, sugar, acidity. Great wines. Then we have Barbaito, and Barbaito has this new concept. It keeps being traditional. You will recognize these wines as being a Madeira wine, but these wines are made to express the terroir, the acidity, the freshness, and this makes these wines very gastronomic. So. And interesting, so the winemaker, he puts the sugar levels down and increases the acidity, and these wines are lighter in body and very fresh. So this is the winemaker, Ricardo Diogo. And then we have the most traditional of all the Madeira wine companies, which is Pereira de Oliveira. And as you know, they have wines from other companies, older companies. The oldest of all the companies is from 1820. So they bought all those old and rare wines, and today they have this huge and very old and huge stock of very rare and old wines. So the winemaker is Filipe Oliveira, which is from the family. So now do you have any questions? No? Alex, no questions?
We do have a question.
Yeah?
We have a couple of questions.
Please.
So one question was whether there's a minimum sugar level for a Cercial. So if extra dry is less than 49 grams per liter, is there a minimum level of sugar?
No. There's no minimum, but who decides? It's the tasting panel, because you need to keep the wine balanced. Okay, so if you put the sugar level too low, you will have the wine not balanced, because you have always high levels of acidity. So you need some sugar. Okay, so the legislation, it doesn't give any minimum. So it's the tasting panel that it will decide with doing the tasting if the wine is balanced. Okay, and if it is correct. So the producers, they need to put some sugar. They cannot put the sugar too low, otherwise they will unbalance the wine.
Okay, Thank
More?
you.
Okay.
There,
Yes.
there is another question, which
Please.
is if you could say a few words about how COVID impacted on the industry.
Okay. Okay.
The
So
ability to
it
pick
was.
grapes, to make the wines, to ship the wines, those sorts of problems.
Yes, it was. It has been very difficult for our companies, as you know. Madeira wine, it's a wine that it's mostly for exportation, and it has been really very difficult. I have mainly because of the local market. So if we see, I have the statistics from the last 3 months. Okay. So in the local market, we had a decrease of 68% in the sellings. So it was I think it's the worst problem for our companies, the local market, because the restaurants and the hotels, and we have no tourists. So it has been very, very bad in here. But in the wine that we send for Europe, for the countries of the European community, we increased in the last 3 months 4%. Okay. So we increased I'm talking in volume, 11% for Germany, 48% for Belgium, France. We lost 1%, but it's not very. So in global point of view, for the European Union, we increased 5% of our exportations. Okay, 5%. We lost in the local market, but we in global, for the countries out of the European Union, we also the variation was positive in terms of volume. So in total, we lost 7% of our market, of our in volume 5%. So it's not very bad. The worst is the local market. Did you understood my explanation?
Yes. I think we did.
Well, in terms of course, that we had some, we lost a little bit, but in last year was worse. Last year, let me see statistics. We had a loss from in 2020. We lost 17% in volume and 22% in value. Okay, last year. But the government helped the companies with the financial help. So because they had to do the harvest, so they are being helped by the government, and I think we will overcome this big problem that it's the pandemic situation.
Thank you, Rubina.
Okay, so I try to divide the tasting in 2 rounds. So in the first round, we will try these 4 wines, single harvest from 2008, it's a medium dry from Barbaito, and then Cercial, 10 years old. Then we will go to single harvest Verdelho from 2007 from Henriques, and then we will end the first round with the Blandis, 10 years old. Wow. Do you have the wines? So then on the second round, we will have the more complex wine. Okay, more complex wines. We will have the Cercial 2001 single harvest, Blandis from Cercial 1980, Verdelho 1981, and Malvasia 1980. 1991 from Pereira de Oliveira. Okay, so let's start with Barbeito. This is the Tinta Negra. It's from Tinta Negra. It's this Tinta Negra. It's this traditional, very productive grape variety. It has this medium to large bunches. Can be the berries can be of different sizes. The skin is very soft, red, with light-colored pulp. They grow up easily on the south part of the island in Câmara de Lobos, and also on the north part of the island. So this wine is from Barbeito, and it's from Barbeito, and it's from the south part of the island, from Estreito de Câmara de Lobos, and it was half of the grapes were picked a week before the full maturation. Why? Because the winemaker wanted to keep the acidity of the wine. So as you can see, this one has 19% of alcohol. It has 62 grams per liter of residual sugar. The volatile is 0.57, and in terms of total acidity, almost 6. So this is still a young Tinta Negra, and it has this very good acidity. So these younger wines must be served a little bit chilled, because they don't have the complexity of fresqueira or garrafeira. And if you decrease the temperature a little bit, you will improve the wine, you will feel the freshness, the acidity. So this one you can serve at 11, 12 degrees. It will be great. So as you can see, do you have the wines? No? Alex, I'm not hearing what you're saying.
No, I can see a lot of people do have the wines, and are tasting along with you.
Tim, you don't have the wine? No? No wine, Tim?
I tasted them all yesterday evening.
Okay. So this one has a light gold color, and it has all the aromas that you can find in a Madeira wine, because when we talk about Madeira wine, we are not talking about primary or secondary aromas. We are talking about tertiary aromas that come with the oxidation process. And this wine stayed in barrels from 2009 until 2019, when it was bottled. And you can see it. You can find all the crystallized fruits, the jammy notes, the citrus, and a lot of dry fruits. So it has a lot of complexity. It's very well balanced. And I think it's a great wine. You can put it with olives, you can put it with almonds, you can put it with fish. Why not with a salad or with a cheese, not a very mature cheese? So it goes very well with so many things. So put the temperature down, put with a good aperitif, and you will see it will work very well, this match. Any questions? I want to say that when the wines with Madeira wine, when the wines they are in the attics, the companies, they have places where the temperatures are higher than others. So they have to control very well the oxidation process, because if you have a wine for a long period of time in a place where temperatures are very high, you will lose a lot of wine. Okay, so they need to control that. And also because the oxidative process, it will be much more fast. So they don't want that. They need to control the oxidation process. So they keep bringing the wines from the hottest places to the coolest places. Okay, so to control the oxidation process and to maintain the style of the company. Any question? Okay, now we will have Cercial. Sorry, this is not. Okay, so we will have a Cercial. Well, Cercial, it's that variety that makes extra dry and dry Madeira wines. Cercial, it's also called dog strangler. So why? Because it's a variety that is highly resistant to diseases, and it's characterized by small, compact bunches of greenish yellow pine cone shaped grapes. It has this very long maturation cycle. Normally, these are the grapes that are picked in last. And if they are on the south coast of the island, they will be at 600, 700 meters high. If they are on the north part of the island, they will be near the sea. So if I tell you that this Cercial, it has a lot of salinity, it's because of the place where the vineyards are. Okay, so for this one you have 19% of alcohol, 45% of 45 grams per liter of residual sugar, which is already very low for a Madeira wine, and almost 8 of acidity, of total acidity. So as you can see, it's a wine with low content of residual sugar, high acidity. So this wine will be very, very, very gastronomic. And Cercial with some age, this is a grape that ages very well, and this acidity, it's not a rash acidity. It's not very, how do I say, it's smooth acidity. It's very pleasant, and it's a vibrant wine on the mouth, and it's very long and really, really interesting. Can be very citric. Can sometimes with seems like lemon. It's very typical to have lemon peel, for instance, to have the nutty character. It's very common too. The iodine also appears here with these wines. The salty notes. So it's very mineral, very salty, very citric, and it has this very alive acidity, long, and really a very, very gastronomic wine. You can put this with, for instance, with oysters, because of the salinity, it goes very well. With the French onion soup, with an octopus salad, with some vinegar, why not? Sometimes when we have food with some vinegar, it's difficult to choose a wine because vinegar can ruin the elegance of the wine. But with a Madeira wine, which is an oxidized wine, do you see this one has 0.78 grams per liter of volatile acidity. So it goes very well with things that have some vinegar also. So these are perfect wines to put with an octopus salad with some vinegar also. With the Parmesan cheese, why not? With mushrooms, well, Cercial and Verdade work very well with mushrooms, why not? And also with the mushrooms can have some garlic, and with dry fruits, with olives, also very good. Do you have any Questions? No?
We don't have any questions.
Okay, perfect. So this is Verdalho, and this Verdalho is from Henriques Henriques, and Henriques Henriques has their own property. Is this okay? With some vineyards, and these vineyards are at some altitude. Okay, they are high. They must be at 500, 600 meters high, and this Verdalho, it shows that. We have here a wine with 20% of alcohol, 75 of residual sugar, and 6.58. Oh, I need to tell you that Henriques Henriques, I think it's the company that controls very well the acidity of the wines. Okay, so it's always the tartaric. It's always very, very controlled. So. As you can see, this is a wine that has the orange peels, very citric, and the nutmeg, ginger, passion fruit. And it's very common for Verdalho to have these smoky notes. Smoky notes. It goes very well with the ham and with the smoked meat. Okay, goes very well with the mushrooms and with a lot of things. So it's really very gastronomic. It's very balanced. It's a very balanced wine. It's a wine with the full on the mouth. It has this beautiful dry extract. You can feel the wine, it's present, but it's very well integrated. I think integration here is everything. It's very well integrated and very balanced, full on the mouth, full body, with the right acidity, long. So really a very, very well done wine. Any questions? No?
No.
Okay. So now we are entering in the sweetest category, in the sweetest wines. This one is a Boal, and this Boal is from Blandis. And Blandis, and the CEO of Blandis, Chris Blandis, has this, he enjoys a lot this variety, Boal. And they work with 29 producers of Boal, different producers of Boal. So they have always very good Madeira wines made with this variety. So this one did some pellicular maceration, so to increase the body of the wine, to give more aromas, more flavors, and the temperatures of the fermentation were very well controlled, between 18 and 21 degrees. It was fortified 3 days after the beginning of the fermentation, of course, with vinegar alcohol at 96%, and it aged 10 years in American oak casks. So this wine, it has the sweetest of all Madeira wines. Verdalho, it has these very resistant berries. It's a variety that it's very sensitive to water stress, and it prefers to be on the south part of the island because of the higher temperatures and sun exposure. So it makes these beautiful medium sweet wines, rich in aromas and flavors, and the Boal has this huge potential for cask aging. So they age very well in an oxidative environment. So as you can see, while it's a more full body wine, and it's a wine that has the dry fruits and the more caramelized aromas, you will find you can find the honey, the toffee, molasses, the caramel, and all those things. The blandies wines are wines that always have the spicy notes that coming from the oxidative process in barrels, in the American barrels. So very complex, more full-bodied, more with a very balanced acidity. You see, this one has 100 grams per liter. It's in the limit of the medium sweet style. Okay, so but it has a very good dose of total acidity, 7 grams per liter. So as you can see, the balance here, it's everything. And with these wines, you will have a sensorial profile, very it's easy to understand the aromas of the wine. Any questions?
One question from me, Rubina.
Yes, Alex.
Would this have been aged in the estufagem or Cantiero system?
Well, the company, I know, it could have been, I need to tell you that these blended wines can undergo baking process, estufagem, okay? After that, they go to barrels, because legislation, it doesn't forbidden the use of baking process here with these wines, okay? So if the producer wants, he can do the baking process, and after that, put the wines in barrels to keep the oxidative process, okay? But I know that blandies, they don't do that for the white varieties, because the white varieties, Cercial, Verdelho, Boal, Malvasia, Terrantez, they, in total, they produce 15% of the grapes. And when the producers they buy these grapes, they normally the option is to do the Canteiro process. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And there's a reason for that, because if they do the Canteiro process, the balance between the nose and the mouth, it will be higher, because with estufagem you can get a wine that improves faster on the nose, but on the mouth it will keep being a younger wine. Do you understand this?
Yes.
Well, with the Canteiro system, the process is more well, the wine evolves on the nose and on the mouth, more or less the same. So it's much better if you use only the Canteiro system. Well, now we will go to the second round, the round 2, which are where we have the oldest of all Madeira wines. So this is you can try, you can experiment the Cercial from 2001 with the Cercial from the 10 years old from Barbeito, to see how the grape evolves and to see how how the wine gets more complex with aging. So this is from 2001, and it has 20% of alcohol, as you can see, 55 grams per liter of residual sugar, almost 1 of volatile acidity. And as you can see here, I told you that Henriques, it's the company that controls the total acidity of the wines, but in this case, we have a wine with almost 10 grams per liter. So here it's everything about acidity, everything about freshness. This is a vibrant wine, really. It has, you will see if in the youngest Cercial that we tried, you can find some vegetable aromas, some astringency. With these wines, they have more evolution in casks. So with these wines, that it's not appearing, you will have the oxidative notes, of course, but the acidity, despite its high acidity, it's very soft. It's very easy to understand, and the aftertaste, it will be very, very big, very long in here. So a very well done social, and with some good structure, good acidity, very, very balanced, despite it has a lot of alcohol, a lot of acidity, very, very well done social. Then we have social from 1980. So this is great because you can compare different styles. You have a style from Henriques Henriques, and then you have styles from Blandis. And it's a little bit different. This one has 21% of alcohol, as you can see. With the aging in barrels, what happens is that the wine will lose some water and it will concentrate, and the alcohol content, it will increase with time. So the alcohol content, the volatile acidity, total acidity, these parameters, they will go higher with the time in barrel. So as you can see, this one has 21% of alcohol, but when I try the wine, it doesn't seem that it has as much alcohol as 21, because it's so well integrated. And the pH also very low, as you can see, 3.3. So it means that the acids, they are strong acids. So this wine stayed in Canteiro for 36 years, as you can see. And the wine was, and they were controlling the oxidative process by bringing the barrels to cooler places, and it's really important to do that. So as you can see, it was bottled in 2019. So this is important for you to know, the year of bottling. This was something that appeared with the new legislation also, because the oxidative process only happens when they keep being in the barrel. Because if you have a wine from 1920, but it only spent 5 years in casks, it will not have a lot of complexity. Okay, so for Madeira wine, the important is the time that the wine spends in the barrels. When the wine goes to the bottle, the oxidative process, of course, it stops, and the wine goes under a reductor environment, okay, with no oxygen. So the evolution of the wine almost stops. It doesn't stop entirely, but almost stops. So it's necessary to have in the label the year of the bottling of the wine. So this one has again a huge quantity of acidity, but once more, it's very well integrated. So this one has a lot of spices, a lot of, it's very citric, it has the crystallized fruit, it has a little bit of sotolon. Do you know what sotolon? Sotolon, the curry note, very typical. There's a study that shows that the concentration of sotolon is higher when the method it's only for Canteiro system, and that it's higher for the more sweetest wine. So, but in this case, we can also find the sotolon note, roasted oaks, the toasted notes. So it's very dry in the beginning. It's very dry. It's very fresh. It's very long. It's very the aftertaste. It has a little bit of volatile. It has 1.3 of volatile acidity, but very spicy, very woody, interesting wine, never-ending wine almost. So this wine, I don't think it needs any kind of food. I think the wine is the food himself, right? Oh, and this wine, with these wines, we can stay for as long as we want, because they will always have something to show us. Even when the wine ends in the glass, you will find so many things. The really great wines, very. So here, once again, a Verdalho from 1981. Once again, from the most traditional style of Madeira wine. From Pereira de Oliveira. And Pereira de Oliveira, why do I say that it's traditional? Because it has more concentration. The dry extract is always high. It's the density of the wine. I'm talking about the more roasted aromas. So this one has 20.35% of alcohol, 74 of residual sugar. As you can see, good dose of volatile acidity, and once again, total acidity also generous. So as you can see, this one is very smoky, very. It has this tobacco notes. It has also, it's very pungent, very woody also. The varnish is here. You can feel the varnish in the beginning, but it's not a fault. It's a characteristic. It's something that makes the wine more valuable, increases the complexity. So the hay also, we feel a lot of hay. So these are really the smoke note in the end. It's amazing. So as you can see, once again, a wine with a lot of complexity, and that make us want to stay with the wine for a while. Any questions? So as you can see, the labeling, it has the company name, it has the variety, Verdalho, 1981. So it means that this was made 100% with Verdalho from a single year. It's from 1981, and it means that it stayed at least 20 years in Canteiro system. This one has more.
Do we know when this one was bottled, please?
This one was bottled, I think, last year. Well, then we have to end this tasting. We will end with a sweet Madeira wine, of course. This is Malmsey from 1991, once again from Pereira de Oliveira. And as you can see, it has this, it's deep in color. It has this dark brown color with some green highlights. It's very profound. Even when we put the wine around the glass, you can see it has this high complexity, dry extract, okay, density. This one has 20% of alcohol, of course, 129 grams of residual sugar, a wonderful, wonderful nose, very easy. It's intense, and it shows complexity, of course, not as many as volatile acidity that in the previous one. This one is more old oak. Okay, very old oak. In Madeira wine, we need to use, we need to have used barrels. doesn't work with young oak, okay? Because the wine stays completely discharacterized. Okay, we had a problem a few years ago with the producer. He started using very young barrels, and it was terrible. Really, so for Madeira wine, we need barrels that have been used. Some producers are using barrels that have in brandy and in other spirits. Well, it's good. It increases the complexity. If you find a brandy note in Madeira wines, well, it's because it's from the cask, it's from the barrel. So this one has, of course, the honey, very good honey, molasses. This Monze goes very well with the traditional cake, a Christmas cake that we have in the island, which is bol de mel, honey cake. Do you know honey cake? Well, honey cake is made with molasses. Okay, the honey made using sugarcane. Okay, it's a dark and it has these roasted notes, and it has a lot of spices and a lot of dried crystallized fruits. So I think it would go perfectly with this Monze from 1991, because this Monze has the molasses, has the raisins, has the old oak, a little bit of vinegar also here. We are still feeling the vinegar, the varnish. I think it's lovely. It's very balsamic too. Okay, you can find pine, eucalyptus, a lot of that tobacco, dry tobacco. And of course, you try this wine, and it's difficult to say that it's a sweet Madeira wine, because really it has a lot of sugar, but also a very good acidity. So if you have a very old Madeira wine, the Monzes will feel like Boal or Verdalho sometimes, because the acidity, it increases so much that it make us confused in the tasting. So this is why fortified Madeira wines are so different, because of this very good and refreshing acidity that gives the wines balance, that make the wines feel not as sweet as they could be. So this is Madeira Island in a glass. This is our terroir, the way we do things, the characteristics of our varieties. So that's why Madeira wine for me is so special. Not only because I'm from the island, not only because I truly believe in the quality of this wine, but also because I can see that it's a challenge to try a Madeira wine. It's really an experience, and with older wines, of course, it's always something that we never forget. So I don't know if you have any questions.
We do have a few questions.
Okay, Alex, let's go.
So the first question for you, not particularly about the wines, but general questions.
Okay.
The first question I've got for you is a question about the stocks and the stocks on the island. How are the stocks on the island?
Well, the companies, they have a lot of wines in Canteiro system. Okay. It depends on the company, of course, because we have companies that have higher capacity for the aging of wines. but some of them have millions of liters of wines aging in their warehouses. For instance, I know that Justinus, for instance, has 3-4 million liters in casks. Bland is also, the other companies, they are smaller, so they have less stock. So, but there are a lot of wines aging.
So there's not going to be any problem with consistency of quality over the next few years?
No, I don't believe in that, no.
Okay.
Our winemakers, they are very, they are great blenders. They understand very well the characteristics of the different wines, and they have been masters in maintaining the quality and the profile of their wines. Yeah, no, I don't think that they will have any kind of problems.
Okay. The next question I've got is the wines that have an indication of age, the 3-year-old, the 5-year-old, the 10-year-old, and so on, do they have to have a bottling date on them as well?
No, no.
Okay.
No, that's only for the wines with the indication of the year of harvest. Frasqueiras, colheitas, only those categories need to have the bottling date, okay? Because, let me see if I can explain. Sometimes, sorry, my English is not very good, and sometimes I lose a lot of the explanation because of the language. Let me see if I can explain. Well, the bottling age, it's necessary because if you imagine you have a barrel of wine, imagine a Verdelho from 1980, a Verdelho from 1980. If the producer bottles that wine in 1987, okay, 7 years after, if he bottles 7 years after, half of the batch, it will be a colheita. If he bottles the other half of the batch 25 years after, it will be a frasqueira. And these two, they will be completely different because they spent different periods of time in barrels in an oxidative process. That's why we need to know when the wine was bottled to see how many years he spent in barrels. That's the important thing.
Yes. Okay.
Did you understood the answer?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then the last question I have is 16% of the vineyards are grapes which are not the recommended varieties.
They are authorized varieties, yes.
And can you give some examples of the authorized varieties?
Authorized varieties. Let me see. Some Moscatel, okay, some of the Moscatel. Caracol, for instance, Caracol, it's a variety that it's produced mainly in the Porto Santo Island. Okay, so it's only an authorized variety.
Is there still any complexa on the island?
Yes, complex. Sorry, I was trying to remember complex. Yes, and it's also used for Madeira wine in blends. Yes, complexa. It's one of the other varieties, and it's only an authorized variety. It's not a recommended variety, so you will never have the name in the label.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody have any other questions for Rubina?
I have one which I suppose relates a little bit to the amount of stocks on the island. I get a sense, and we hear a lot of conversations about perhaps some prices going up and some more interest in the higher level wines, so the vintage dated wines, the 15, 20-year-old wines. Is that actually true? So ignoring COVID, but in recent years, has there been
in recent years
interest growth in sales in fine Madeira?
Yes, it's true. Yeah, we have some markets that buy high quality Madeira wines. Okay, high category Madeira wines. They don't buy in volume, but they buy in value. Okay, so I'm talking about Japan, United States. Okay, these markets, they buy a lot high quality wines. China also more recently. So yes, there are some markets that are very interested in high category Madeira wines.
Okay, unless there's any other questions, I think, Rubina, I would just like to thank you for leading us through a very interesting presentation and some excellent wines. There are a lot of posts on the chat where people are just saying thank you. They've really enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you. I'm so sorry if you don't understand my English. It's not as good as I would love to, but sorry. If you have any question, please email me, okay? I will answer for sure and try to do more detailed information, okay? Please send me an email. It's here, okay? Feel free to do so, okay?
Okay, that's fantastic. So, Rubina, thank you ever so much. This has been
thank you, Alex.
Really,
thank you all.
Presentation.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for attending this masterclass. Thank you.
So, thank you very everybody. Have a very good afternoon, and you know, hopefully you will still have some of the Madeiras left to be able to enjoy them this evening.
You're right. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.